I have fixed my complete insomnia naturally, and in this video I'll share what I learned in over 2 years of hard manual research. And look, most people with insomnia, they try endless supplements, meditation and breath work. And to be quite honest, that is the exact reason why some of them believe that insomnia cannot be cured, because they never address the important factors that actually cause their insomnia. And I mean, think about it. Do you think that you have insomnia because you have some kind of supplement deficiency or because you can't breathe properly? People that lived thousands of years ago didn't even have a word for insomnia. So this video is more or less a guideline to the things that I used that ended up working. And they've not just worked for me, they've also worked for my mother. She had 8 years of insomnia, on average sleeping like 5 hours every single night with terrible sleep quality due to the medication she was taking. I'm gonna go over the 3 main pillars for fixing insomnia that everyone should address. And let's begin with the first one, which makes use of something called environmental scouting, and this has changed everything for me. But first I actually want to say something. And that is honestly, life with insomnia is so painful. It drains your life quality, suppresses your fun, suppresses your mood, and lowers your energy. And honestly, almost nobody out there can really understand what you're going through. Sure, they've had a few nights of insomnia. But if you're having insomnia for a month or a lot more, maybe even years, nobody really gets it. And I've had bad sleep for almost my entire life. And when I was in high school, I would always be so tired, literally all the time for years. And I would literally just sit there, yawn all the time, like get those watery eyes and like be super tired, stare at my paper and just feel super drained. I would sleep like 6 hours on average, which is like definitely not enough. And I always needed, every single night, I always needed over 1 hour to fall asleep. And I just lived with it, because quite honestly, I knew this was kind of weird, but I realized that, or I just didn't know how to fix it. Even though it was actually in my control, it was a choice, I just didn't know it. So let's kind of try to figure this out together. What was my problem back then? Because then we're going to figure out your problem. First of all, how did my life look like back then? Very simple. I would go to school, I would come back home, I would go to my PC and play video games for 6 to 8 hours. Yeah, that was kind of like my life in a nutshell. And on weekends I would play even more. So I would play a lot of video games. But what was the real reason why I couldn't fall asleep? Well, you might say stuff like, yeah, you just didn't move enough, you didn't get enough fresh air, or video games are just too stimulating in the evening. And listen, that is all true, but those are just side stories. And today, I want to grab the biggest root of the tree, which is actually your problem tree. And what I learned from real experts in fixing my insomnia myself is something super simple. Your problem root is light. This was my problem root back then, and it's causing insomnia for millions of people. And by the way, this is well documented in the science, but how does this really work? Well, you probably have seen these LED strips before where you can change the color really fast, like going from blue to purple to orange, whatever color you really want. But believe it or not, those colors actually have effects on our cell. So if you take a microscope, you put a cell underneath it and you change the light, you can completely change how the cell works. And remember, I would sit there all the time playing video games in front of my monitor. This is light. And this light would completely change my biorhythm. Now it's getting a little bit more complicated, but don't worry, I'm gonna make it easy. First up, what is a biorhythm? It's kind of like your internal clock. And only if your internal clock matches the actual time during the day, then you will be able to sleep. If not, you get problems. This is called circadian rhythm, in case you want to fact check me. And blue light, just so we are clear, is coming from almost all artificial light sources, whether that's your light or your monitor. Because yeah, you see blue, that's real blue light, but even all colors have like blue parts in them. And this changes your biology. Yes, you heard me correctly. just like medications or also your diet. And by the way, I have a free blue blocking course that you can check out after the end of this video that kind of really explains how you can block most of the blue light at least. And once you apply that, you will see big changes because light is a lot more powerful than any of your sleeping pills. Did you know that light, which is actually dimmer, so not as bright as just the room light that you're using in the evening, already suppresses 50% of your melatonin? Just normal room light in the evening suppresses melatonin by 70%. And honestly, your mobile phone is an absolute killer. So why are you trying to take melatonin and not just address the root problem? Again, do you have a supplement deficiency? No. Are you using too much artificial light? Most likely. And they didn't have artificial light thousands of years ago. So maybe that's one of the reasons why they didn't even have a word for insomnia. Are you starting to understand how all of this really works? And by the way, there are long-term effects to this, so this is what I had to deal with. If you've been using light wrong for a long time, then it kind of really takes some time for your rhythm to shift again. So this is something really practical. Learn more about light and actually get strict with your light, especially when it comes to blue light and blue light in the evening. Now let's talk about the next pillar to fix your insomnia. And I recently kind of rediscovered this actually. I remember I had these really bad gut problems, always bloating and digestive issues, and it literally took me like 6 to 7 months to actually fix them because it was so hard to find the correct information. But recently, I started to notice that I would wake up earlier and earlier. Now, this wasn't like a massive change. I would still sleep like 7 to 8 to 9 hours, so it was still fine, but I would just notice that I would not feel that rested. And also I noticed a slight change in my digestion. So I just reintroduced a certain drink I used back in the day for my gut microbiome. And man, that changed everything. Like that night, I slept like a stone. And since then, I sleep so much better. Now, the really big takeaway for you here is that your diet, so your gut microbiome, but also your diet in general, has a huge effect on your sleep. This is actually what not a lot of people talk about. And really, it matters when you eat, what you eat, and when you eat what. So I'm sure you know some people that if they eat a big meal in the evening, they just can't fall asleep. And this just goes back to the biorhythm. So they ate the wrong foods at the wrong time. And this basically changed their biorhythm and they're just really susceptible to it. But of course, it also matters what specifically you eat. And not just this superficial stuff that you hear everywhere like, oh yeah, eat less processed food. Like, I'm sure you've heard that dozens and dozens of times. But I'm really talking about figuring out a diet that is good for you, eliminate the foods that you're intolerant to, and sometimes also reintroducing nutrients that you might be missing. All that, and I experienced and seen it time and time again, has a huge effect on your sleep, especially when it comes to quality. And in fact, also, there's a flip side of things. Certain supplements can also cause insomnia, or certain diet changes, like you go on the ketogenic diet, a lot of people get insomnia. And sometimes that's just temporary, sometimes it stays for that, so they have to go back to their normal diet. But really, the practical tip here is not to go on like some new whatever diet. I don't really care about that too much. It's just really important that this diet works for you. And so this is what I use the CAT-Q framework for. Basically, it's just a simple framework to find a diet that fits your needs. And the C stands for control. So this basically just means cook yourself and control the ingredients. Attention, pay attention to how you feel after every single meal. This is so vital. Most people don't do this. That's why they never really figure out what foods are actually good for them. And figure out how these meals have an effect on your digestion. Timing. Smaller meals in the evening, this is the best tip right now. Smaller meals in the evening, maybe a little bit bigger meals in the morning. And also quality. So make sure that the food that you're eating is of high quality, otherwise, yeah, it just doesn't make any sense to eat low quality food. So if you get those things intact, then you will see massive changes in your sleep, especially again when it comes to the quality. Now the last pillar is all about stress, cortisol, whatever you want to say. And I bet listen, we have all experienced insomnia at some point in our life due to stress, whether that's emotional or from work, school, whatever. But there are a few things that you should really know about this point. First really big thing is, the worse your environment is that you're living in, so kind of goes back to the first pillar that we talked about, and the worse your health is, the more this will affect you. So for example, around 2.5 years ago, when I had a super terrible insomnia month, I almost didn't sleep at all. It was a horrible time. And literally in that time, I would meditate 30 minutes every single day before going to bed. And I still couldn't sleep. And by the way, no, I did not have any external stress. I still just meditated because I thought, well, I can't sleep, so this is probably gonna help me. And yeah, but it just didn't help me enough. And listen, once I lied down, I tried to fall asleep. Yeah, then it all started. I got those thought loops. I thought about, oh, why can I not sleep? I tried to like logically solve this problem, or I thought about my work, or about this one thing that I forgot. And listen, this is completely normal and natural. It's because you're lying there, nothing is happening, and something is gonna go on inside of your mind. And the mistake that many people do is they think their thoughts or their stress is causing insomnia when it is actually their environment. Because their environment is then keeping them awake, they get those looping thoughts. And honestly, these days I can even go to sleep when having a little bit of stress and my thoughts aren't really in the perfect order and everything, and I can still fall asleep. And I just wish someone would have told me this earlier. But of course, I'm gonna say really bad emotional problems or extreme stress will cause insomnia even for me. And if you suspect, because some people have insomnia because of trauma or something related to that, PTSD, whatever, then something that you should really address is your subconscious mind. Again, this is fixable. And I've done this in sort of other parts. I didn't do it for sleep or anything. And I've had great success. And what helped me, this is really fast, is hypnosis. And by the way, if you become a private client, then we also offer you hypnosis sessions in case that is something that you need. Now, if you are currently super stressed and you suspect that this is the cause for your insomnia, then just do it super simple. Make yourself an alarm like 30 minutes before going to bed. Then you're gonna sit down and you're gonna meditate. And if you still can't sleep, probably it's because of something else. Now, you probably don't wanna, if you have never meditated before, then start with like 5 minutes, wake your way up to 10, and at some point you're gonna be at 30 minutes. And at some point, you're gonna be able to calm down really fast. And again, if that's not the fix, then this is not your root problem. And one thing I want to say about these breathing exercises, because many people want to do them, and there's like this 5-8-7 or something method. I used to try it. It just never worked. And honestly, if you lie there, you cannot fall asleep. I have found those breathing exercises, yeah, they calm me down a little bit, but at the same time, they're also kind of stressful. And again, they just didn't work. So what works a lot better, in my opinion, is just listening to a podcast on audiobook that is super relaxing, because then at least your mind is getting distracted. Now, the real takeaway from this video is that the problem is often not really inside of you, but in your environment, or maybe connected to the other pillars. And I recommend you that you stop searching for solutions in pills, because quite honestly, you don't have a pill deficiency. And do you know how many people suffer from like bad sleep, especially young people? Is that because, well, we need more supplements, or is it because they use way more artificial light than people used to? There's also a really big important factor that has to do with the environment pillar and a few other very specific tips that unfortunately I can't really share on this platform here. I kind of tried that before, but that's not really a good idea. So if you want to have them, you need to get some kind of closer contact to me. And you can also get a really personalized plan for you specifically, because sometimes it really depends on your environment and your case. Those things that I covered here, they're gonna affect everyone, but there are very specific things that we need to figure out for your case specifically. So if you want to have that, reach out to me through the links in the video description, and I'm gonna help you out. And as always, remember that your dreams can come true when you allow yourself to believe and try. you can make it.